Good morning, my creative friends, and welcome to Painting in Your PJs live with Minette. I'm Dr. Minette Riordan, and I am so excited to be here with all of you. If you're just stopping by, Painting in Your PJs is all about art as a creative process for personal discovery and self reflection. And there's no better way to do that than through art journaling, which I really love. So, all month long, I am working through a list of gratitude prompts that I created. You'll find a link to those prompts in the description of the video. And I'm working in a big Hanamula sketch diary, which is one of my favorite diaries. And the cover was inspired by Embrace Your Art, Tiara Smith, and her course on gratitude art journaling, which I also really love. So lots of work in my journal this month that I'm wishing I had even more time to be here playing in my art journal. And I'm happy with where things are going. And what I'm thinking about this morning, the prompt that I picked for this morning is to list three things you're thankful for in your personal relationships. Three things you're thankful for in your personal relationship. So, welcome. Grab your art journal, grab some favorite supplies. I have no idea what I'm doing this morning. I was working on a very large painting over in my studio for the last hour or so, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's time to go live. So, I'm going to figure it out as I go, which is kind of how I like to start. So, I'm going to go ahead and change my camera here, fix my lights. Excuse me. And sometimes I start by writing, sometimes I start with art and then add the writing later. Spontaneous is good. Thanks, Marion. Good morning, good morning. And what I want to, oh, here's a little birdie that's floating around, left over from some other collage project. And actually, I had a whole stack of collage goodies I was cutting out yesterday for something else. So maybe I will bring some collage elements into this one. We'll see. But one of the things that I love to do is to write on my page first and then create art over that. In fact, that question came up in a recent my Wizard of Oz class that I was teaching recently about, I don't always want to share what's on my journal pages or it feels too vulnerable. I don't want people to see what I'm writing. Well, the solution to that is just simply to paint over it. And when I think about things that I'm thankful for in my personal relationships, they don't feel vulnerable. But the other thing I love about writing on an art journal page before diving in for the creative part is I feel like then that energy is there. And I love the depth that it creates having my own handwriting sort of buried in there. And I also found this quote in a magazine yesterday. Said the river, imagine everything you can imagine, then keep on going, by my favorite poet, Mary Oliver. So maybe this quote is gonna show up on the page somewhere. But when I think about things I'm thankful for in my personal relationships, good morning, Judy. I'm thankful for connection with others. I'm thankful for the support I receive. So when you think about, and I'd love for you to share in the comments, what are you thankful for in your relationships? So I'm thankful for the support I receive. I'm thankful for collaboration. So right now this week we're in launch mode for our Sisterhood of the Traveling Journal project that I co-created with Ali Manning from Vintage Page Designs, Andrea Chebalou from A Work of Heart Studio, and Robin Marie Smith and I. And I love this gorgeous cover that is Robin Marie's work, and I love the inside pages that are so distinctly Andrea's colors and work, and we made these journals, and it's been such a fun project. And then I have added some, bits and pieces of my own creativity here to these journals. And we had a really fun chat yesterday about, well, where do we go from here and what would you do in your journal? And we had the fun thought of sending each other things throughout the year to tuck in to our journals. And I thought that was such a sweet collaborative idea, and to be able to continue the play with those, that Sisterhood of the Traveling Journal. And if you're on my email list, I have sent it out once. I'll be sending it out again. And it's also on my Instagram and my Facebook pages as well. So the things that I'm thankful for in my personal relationships: connection with others, support, collaboration, love, right? Giving and receiving love is something that I'm very grateful for. I'm incredibly thankful for time spent. For example, on Sunday, we went to a vintage Christmas market here in the area that one of my friends had gotten tickets for, and invited us to come along. And so we went to this fun craft fair and then went out to lunch, and we just had this lovely morning spent with another couple. Thursday night, I'm going to see the band Depeche Mode, remember the old 80s band, with another girlfriend that got tickets. So time spent is precious. Time spent is precious. Um, what else am I thankful for in my personal relationships? I think this pretty well like incorporates everything, right? Like these are the things that feel most important to me. Excuse me, my voice isn't quite awake this morning, but I'm curious, what is most important to you, or what are you thankful for in your personal relationships? I'd love to hear from some other people. Like playtime, here's this fun little snowman and elephant in a creative play dates. I have one on Zoom today with a girlfriend. So those feel really fun, and I'm very thankful for those. And I'm just thankful, I think, mostly for that deep connection I have with others. And I would say here, this is family and friends. So sometimes when we think about keeping a gratitude journal, we think, especially I'm working in this big book, that it has to be lots and lots of writing and lots of words, but it's not. We just want to plant the seeds of gratitude, right? We want to plant those seeds of gratitude. Now I'm going to come in and put a layer of collage over this top of it. Connection, authenticity, levity, fun. I love that. Thank you, Marion. And I'm going to get just some texture down on this page. I'm not going to fill the whole page with collage. I'm using matte medium to stick this down. Just get a little bit of texture, some more layers on the page. Yeah, and everyone having time for themselves. So true. One of the things that I learned along my journey is I love going to art retreats and events, and it's really important to me to have a private room so that I get to enjoy being with others, but I also have space to retreat to, because I love people and I need lots of quiet time. And so I agree. Right now, I'm feeling very grateful about getting to spend time with both my kids over the holidays and their partners. My daughter is coming home with her partner for 2 weeks. I'm super excited for that. And my son and his partner are coming here for Thanksgiving dinner, which feels exciting and wonderful. And my stepdad is super grateful because I'm hosting Thanksgiving, so it's less work for him. All right, just getting some little bits of collage down on the page again. Just that little bit of texture, little bit of color. Really pressing those images down to get them nice and smooth. The magazine ones tend to wrinkle up a little bit more, but it just adds texture to the page. But I like a flat surface, so I also want to make sure I get that flat surface down there as much as possible. All right, and just get the extra matte medium. And you can see there's a little bubble there, right, where I didn't get enough. So let's get that bubble down. You can't really go back once you start painting to smooth them out. So you want to get those pieces smoothed out right up front. And what did I do? I've been having fun pulling out supplies lately that I haven't used in a while, and I have these super fun, zoom in a little bit here, there we go. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy with the zooming in and out, but I have these Stabilo Woodies. These are water soluble crayons and they're super fun to play with, so it's a great way to just add some color and texture down. And I'm gonna maybe start thinking a little bit about a palette today. What are the colors that are, I don't know, that purple is kind of calling to me, that are calling me in. Why are you popping up? Go away. Oh, I'm pressing on my keyboard, that's why. All of a sudden weird things are popping up on my screen, and of course it's no one's fault but my own. There's a white one of these around somewhere as well. But what I love about these is that you can add patches of color, you can add lines and marks to things, and they come with these super fun giant, when you buy a set of them, they actually come with their own pencil sharpener. And they don't get super sharp, but at least you can get some more surface on them. So I'm feeling like just putting some marks down this morning. And one of the things I've been, watching some of the lessons from my friend Robin Marie Smith, whose style I love. And I love the looseness of her style. And when you want to sort of start to get that very loose style into your art, one of the tricks is to hold implements, whether it's a paintbrush or a pencil, way out at the end. Don't hold it like a pencil. When you hold it like a pencil, you have a lot of control, but you don't get that sort of really loosey-goosey, playful style. These are also good for just coming in and starting to put some patches of color down. And just like with the Caran d'Ache water-soluble crayons that I love, the Neo Color 2s, I can activate these with water. I can activate them with white paint. I can also activate them with the matte medium, which makes them very permanent. So there's a lot of different ways to sort of play with these different water-soluble tools. And they're just a different way to get color and marks down on the page. And the vision that's in my head is I'm going to do my favorite style of redactive painting, which I love doing. So I'm going to paint a really crazy page, and then I want to have just some hearts on the page that maybe I can write inside of, or that will just be an abstract representation of the things that I really love. This needs a little bit of green, I think, of the things that I'm really thankful for in my relationships. And you notice this is super messy to start, right? Like there is nothing pretty happening here yet. This is 100% that sort of just messy middle, having fun, being spontaneous, getting color down on the page. And the more we allow ourselves to just play on the page, now it looks like I've got hearts and kisses all over the page. The more we allow ourselves to play on the page, the more comfortable we get with our materials, the more comfortable we get with ourselves as artists, and the more we're able to just really let go of attachment to outcomes and enjoy and be engaged in the process. So much of what I want to share with you on this channel is about loving the process more than the product, because the process is where the magic happens. It's where the learning happens. It's where the intuition arises, where the knowing comes from, where we make peace with our inner critic. So much can happen in these under layers, but we have to be willing to detach. We have to be willing to love, love, love on that messy middle. All right, so I am gonna go over this whole thing with matte medium and see what happens. So what I love about the Stabilos is they move a little bit with the matte medium, but not a lot, right? So I'm going to be able, almost like an oil pastel, that black is getting a little bit muddy in there, but that's okay. If I came in with a paintbrush, I could move that color around a little bit more, but this is an underlayer, right? This is an underlayer. And the reason I'm using matte medium instead of water is because I want those underlayers to stay put so that as I add up other layers, they're not mixing and blending. I need a paper towel. Get that extra matte medium off of here. And I'm just going to smooth that out one more time. And now I have this sort of very fun, grungy page. I notice that magazine images coming up there a little bit, but that's okay. All right, now I get to decide where to go next. I get to decide, does this need to be dry? Do I want to work on it wet as it is? And again, oh, I did get my brayer back. All right, I'm thinking I'm going to bring a little bit of white in and just mix a little bit of white in all of this. And yes, I am 100% covering up all of the layers, all of the collage, but they're not completely gone. For me, this is where mixed media art journaling becomes really fun and rich, is that I know all of those layers are there. And if I had just started by putting a little bit of gesso on the page, I wouldn't have this interesting grungy look to play with. And I can still see places where you can see some of the words popping through. And because I put matte medium down, I can actually go back with a baby wipe. This is just a paper towel. And I could even just push some of this back a little bit. Maybe bring back some of the color and the texture and the words if I wanted to. But I don't. I like the kind of... It's what I like about the brayer, is that you get an interesting textured look. I can still see some of my original handwriting on the edge of the page. Now, none of this may stay put, Just going to clean off my brayer on this page over here. And I'm thinking I want to go ahead and get the hearts on here and paint the hearts and maybe leave the background. I'm like, how can I make this different than what I normally do, or even maybe what I thought I was going to do? But I kind of had this vision of some interconnected hearts. So my page is still wet. It's totally cool. I will wipe off the end of the Stabilo so that gesso doesn't dry on there in that matte medium. I don't want those to dry on the tip because then it won't color next time. But this is going to help me get those shapes down. And I love that as it's pushing through, I'm seeing some of the other writing and marks and texture underneath. And I have so much texture on the page right now that I'm not, it's not drying very fast, so I'm able to scratch through a little bit. Not even sure I want the hearts to stay red. The other thing I love about the Stabilo is if I get some of these maybe in a place I don't want them, it's water soluble, right? And so I'm just gonna smush that color around. And look, now I have some nice pink on the page. Those two aren't quite in the right spot. I'm thinking what I want is this one here, maybe to be a little bigger so that it's not coming right to the point of that one, but going beyond. I love how things mix with gesso as well. Let's make that side a little bit bigger. As this dries and mixes with the other paint, we'll get more opacity in these colors. And I'm loving sort of the grunginess around, and I'm actually really liking this sort of pink in the background here. So I'm going to just go ahead and work on that background a little bit. So all the colors underneath are still wet. So you can see I've got some of that purple peeking through because I wasn't super patient at letting all of those colors dry. And I love sheer layers, right? So I'm not, what I'm seeing here is I'm still seeing everything that's underneath. I'm not looking for opacity. I'm really sort of looking for that grungy. And don't be afraid to work with both hands. I think there's something that also helps us be more childlike and detached from the outcomes when we get our whole selves into the page. So this is going to help me look at that placement of the hearts a little bit. So this spot over here feels unbalanced. So I'm thinking this one just needs to maybe also be just a little bit bigger. All right, that feels a little bit better composition. And again, I'm going to just dip this in my water and clean off the tip so I don't have that matte medium or that gesso drying on the tip there. I love that I can see the sort of just little bits of that butterfly inside here. And I kind of like the hearts the way they are, so I'm not going to over paint them. I like the kind of grungy effect. And because they're light, they also invite having some more words or writing inside of them. So I'm going to take a baby wipe here and just clean up the edges. So right now this piece is very monochromatic. It definitely needs some contrast. So I'm going to want to come back with some darker colors, some more black, create some, different lines or shadows. And what I love about putting down layers of matte medium is that as you layer up, you can always push back, right? The paint that's on top to those layers. All right, it is a messy page, but it's a happy page. And if I don't want it to be that messy, right, I can smooth that color out. Baby wipes are probably one of those go-to things in my studio. And I'm wanting more of this blue on the page. I don't think I've ever done a whole art journal page where I just use the Stabilos. It's kind of a fun experiment, and so much of art journaling for me is about experimentation. So remember, my page is still pretty wet, so it's going to allow me to just pretty easily continue to move color around. It's getting definitely more dry down here. And as I'm sitting here adding color, looking at these hearts, I'm thinking about all those things I wrote about the things that I am super grateful for. And I love that Marion added authenticity to the list. Like, my closest friends certainly are people that they are who they say they are, and I really appreciate that about them. So I agree that's important. And I would say humor, right? Humor and people I can be fun and have silly with, that be silly with, is also super important. So I'm going to start to just bring in a little bit of black here. I'm kind of feeling like I'm going to want to bring my poscas and maybe do some drawing on this. Getting that glare from the wet paint. Definitely needs some more contrast. I love I can still see all the mess. Like, this is a messy page. It's not, oh, look, I created a pretty bouquet of flowers, or I created a nice landscape. This is definitely one of those pages where it's about what I'm feeling and experiencing and less about, I'm going to make something really pretty here. And there's the voice in me that's like, but wait, it's not pretty enough to share with people, right? I can totally hear the voice of my inner critic. And then there's that voice of, boy, this was very fun and messy, and sort of captures the sentiment of relationships. Relationships are messy. Relationships are messy. Okay, I'm really digging these Stabilos today. And this again, it's that fun experiment to look in your supplies, What's something that you haven't used for a while, or maybe something that you sort of shy away from using? Definitely needed that brightness. Good morning, Eliana. These are Stabilo Woodies is what they're called, and they are these big, chunky, water-soluble crayons. Stabilo Woodies. And at most art stores, probably Dick Blick or Jerry's, maybe even on Amazon. I don't think they sell these at Michael's, but you can buy like one or two colors to give them a try, and then you can buy, sets of them with a few different colors. So I would always say to people that want to try something new to start with just one or two in colors that you love, and then if you like them, buy more. That's what happened to me. I think I got some in a kit from a supply kit from a retreat I did with my friend Andrea, and I fell in love with them, and then I went and bought more. Not my normal palette, not my yeah, and I'm not loving that feels like too much black. Interesting. So when I look at it on the screen and in front of me, it feels different, and trying not to glue my pages together. So I'm going to come back in with a little bit of this gesso around those edges and maybe not worry so much about the contrast. Yeah, it feels like the white is what it needed. And maybe I'll go back over that one more time and bring the red back. When I added the water to the Stabilo, you could see how much that color moved. Brighten this back up again. And what would happen if I went ahead and actually put a little more white in some of them, created a little more opacity. So when I approach an art journal page, everything is, you could totally cut them out and glue them on. This is all done just on one page. There's collage in the background. That's what you're, seeing the layers and the background, but you could 100% cut them out of something else and collage them on and create a completely different look and effect. Okay. Yeah, so for me it was missing. I want to bring that red back over the top of everything. And then I'm going to get the page dry and maybe do some journaling or put some of those words from the journaling that I did before in the hearts. And then also comes the fun part of the process for me, which is the mark making. This is where I feel like I could get lost for days in an art journal page. This one would benefit from some, maybe some different kinds of marks. And I'm still just using the Stabilo. Again, just that fun experiment. One of those things that gets lost in my supplies. And it's amazing, it brings it to life when we start to add our own little happy marks and patterns to the page. I love it. They kind of look like little bits of confetti floating around in the background. I feel like I want maybe some pops of white in there, so I can do that with a paintbrush. I'm going to hit this with the dryer and get it really nice and dry. I love that, Eliana. I love using art journaling for working with and expressing emotions, and a river is a great way to do that. Our journal prompt for today was, what am I thankful for in my relationships?